Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, your home and no BS trading. I have a few things in the charts that I'm seeing right now that are looking interesting. The question always is, are we going down? Are we going up? What are the answers? So far, I've seen some good signs that we're potentially seeing a low, but we're also kind of at a critical turning point right now as far as the weekly time frame goes. Right now, we're in a high likelihood of rejection right here. So I kind of wanted to just go over a couple things. One thing I want to mention is global liquidity. Let me get rid of these guys here quick. Um, so global M2 actually has a 10-week lead on the Bitcoin price, meaning as global liquidity increases, 10 weeks later, that liquidity finds itself into Bitcoin. At least since last March, it's been very highly correlated. So if I just draw a few lines here at the very peaks and troughs of the M2 money supply, global M2, you're going to see that they all line up pretty darn nicely right here. So we had a peak in M2 right here. M2 went sideways. Bitcoin went sideways and down. When we had a resurgence in the M2 supply, we had a resurgence in Bitcoin price. And so this 10-week lead called this top within a week, actually, which is pretty darn impressive. So as it stands right now, the end of this week, right here is kind of what we're interested in. So potentially looking at a bottom and higher prices into April and May. And by the time we get there, we'll see if this is going to be a double top in liquidity, or if we're going to see higher liquidity from there on. So I just wanted to mention that is one model. There are other models that I've shown that have a different time skew that actually suggest that this low right here in liquidity is right here, and we may be in for a lower low in liquidity. Um, so basically, yeah, those are the options. Either this is the low, or we might print another low. Either we get a double bottom. I don't see us testing too far below this major support here, this yellow line. I have a feeling that we're going to find very strong support, because if we zoom out, really all we're doing is coming back to retest these old highs in this top right here. So we've had a nice breakout and a retest. That's very, very, very typical of markets to do. So far it seems like we're just steady on. Still in a bull market. So anyway, finding support here, whether it holds or not, that's yet to be seen. Something that I want to mention is just in this last run up here, I get my Fibonacci tool out and I mark this out. What this is basically just a calculator. So this line right here is the 50% level, meaning it's halfway between this low and this high. And if you follow my channel long enough, I use these quite a bit because they're kind of magnets in the market. You'll find them gravitate towards these levels quite a bit. So in this move, that's a nice balanced move. We had a nice run up. It gives about half of it back. And on a weekly level, you can see it's been respecting this level, and we're getting a nice push higher. And we also have 3 green weeks coming up, which is a signal that Michael Pizzino uses. He has several signals that have been really useful in identifying potential tops and bottoms, things like that. So that's what we're doing right now, hunting for a potential bottom and looking for that buy the dip opportunity. The risk in buying the dips blindly is that you don't know if it's going to go lower or not. So that's always the case. And then confirmation of a low always comes at higher prices. So that's another aspect to it. So for seeing this move, gain some strength. The way I use these 50% tools is in the lower half, it's weak relatively, and in the upper half, it's relatively strong. That's how Michael Pizzino teaches it. It's been very, very helpful for me in my trading. And so as we can see, same thing with trend lines. I just pop this trend line on here over the tops. We can see that we're coming into resistance right here. So if we're in the lower half of this trend line, relatively weak, we're in the lower half of the 50% tool, relatively weak. So to really confirm that we have seen the low, what we really want to see is price get above this level and start forming higher lows above this level, especially on the weekly time frame. So that's what I'm tracking right now. As far as, where are we going? We have a high likelihood of rejection right here just because of this trend line. And there's other levels. If you go deeper in the daily time frame in the 4-hour charts, there's even more trend line resistance and 50% tool resistance. But using this on the weekly chart is usually pretty powerful. So the way I treat these is if it's approaching it from the underside, there's a likelihood of selling. And then if that signal fails and you don't see it and it breaks through, that's a signal in itself. That's going to show relative strength in the move. So I'm not expecting to see really sustainable moves to the upside until we see this exchange volume pick up. That's basically what we saw back in November, October. We started slowly seeing higher highs and higher lows, very slowly, kind of sneakily gaining traction. And then the exchange volume took off from there. And so what I'm hoping to see is, over the coming weeks, see this exchange volume start to base out something similar like this. As we came down, we started to base, forming higher lows as we went. And if this turns around right here, that'll be a nice area because it will kind of be a higher macro low. If we can get this above this general area. So that's what I'm seeing. I mean, things are looking good as far as the liquidity models. There's trend line support, larger trend line support that I just drew back there. And then I believe also if we were to throw on I think this is a 50 period moving. I believe this is a 50 period moving average, but this entire bull cycle, once we broke up and found support, we've basically just been riding this the whole time. So whether that holds it, I mean, it's always a moving target, it doesn't mean that just because we hit this, it's up only. We may come up, have another test for a higher low. We may come down a little bit farther. We may wick below. We really don't know. Like I said, the exchange volume being low is probably the biggest concern I have for failure of at least immediate higher prices. The exchange is lagging a little bit. It is a 7-day moving average. So yeah, I mean, if we were to start seeing upside in the next week or two, that would help this bottom and start rounding out its bottom and hopefully forming a base. That's what we'd like to see anyway. This is I'll move myself over here. This right here is the ETF inflow and outflow chart. And a lot of times you see on YouTube, people are using this as they think it's like an indicator of when to buy and when to sell. So if there's a lot of inflows to the ETF, they think it's a good time to buy. And then if there's a lot of selling pressure, they think that that's a good time to sell. But typically the masses get it wrong at the extremes. I can clean this up and put it on a weekly time frame. Usually the masses get it wrong at the peak or the extremes because the emotions are the most extreme at the peaks. So, peak euphoria is the most when prices are high, and peak fear is the greatest when prices are the lowest. So if you're trading based on, how you're feeling in that moment, it can really get you. So if we go, we can look right here and see some of the highest inflows right here on this week. Prices went sideways. Like they really didn't do anything, right? So that peak inflow was kind of a signal that, we might be, it was the highest volume we had ever seen. It's not likely that we're going to see, an equal run after that happened. And then if we go here too, right here, this was the largest outflows that we had seen, for a very long time, and it marked this white line as the Bitcoin price. Or excuse me, no, the yellow is the Bitcoin price. But either way, this marked the very low. That's what I'm trying to say. And right now we have extreme and consistent outflows. And so retail usually gets it wrong at the extremes. It's nice to see that big dump. It's nice to see that big dump right there. That gives me a little more confidence that we're closer to a low than not. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what I'm seeing today is, in the shorter term, I'll throw this on a daily chart and I can get rid of I don't use moving averages a lot, but they can be useful to sometimes when you're freaking out when prices go low, you pop up that moving average and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're finding support on that 50-week moving average. So right now, at least on the shorter term timeframes, we have a nice uptrend, getting some rejection on this trend line. So we'll see how we react to it. If I pop up another fib level here, computer's being a little slow. Oh dear. There it is. Okay. A little slow. Okay, so yeah, like I said, let me delete that. Okay, so yeah, on the very short term, at least in this move, what we would like to see is support on this 50% level and perhaps a break over this trend line would give us a little bit more confidence that we're in stronger territory and that we're gaining momentum. One tool that's very useful that I haven't taught a lot is overbalance in time and price. So we're in this downtrend, and if we find the largest move in that downtrend and just draw a trend line right here from here to there and project it off of this low right here, we can see that if the buyers are able to push it up, this is about, I measured this earlier, this is about a $17,000 move. If we're able to push prices up that $17,000, it actually has really nice confluence with this 50% level and all of these bottoms. I mean, there's a lot of previous support here that's now acting as resistance. If this is the low, if we make it up on top of this 50% tool, then that would be the confirmation for me that this is the low. But that confirmation happens at higher prices, and that's just the way it is. So if I'm looking to buy altcoins, I really do want to see strength in Bitcoin before I get too degen crazy. You can definitely get yourself burned doing that. You have to do your own analysis on each individual chart, but as a rule of thumb, the altcoin market's not going to do well unless Bitcoin's doing well. It's just the way that it's been. And so if I go back, so the overbalance in time and price. So to get the price qualifier, we need to push up $17,000 from this low. And I hadn't actually measured this before, but if we go back and we see how long have we been able to push prices up, I think it's only been about 3 weeks. That's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week there, 3 weeks there. Yeah. So far we've actually met the time criteria because we've been pushing prices up longer than the 2 to 3 weeks. So we have the time qualifier checked off for our overbalance in time and price. And then when price gets that $17,000 above, then really what that's telling you is that the bulls have been able to push the prices higher for longer, which is an indication that downtrend is likely coming to an end. It's a really great way to find trend reversals. It happened back here. I'd have to do another video, but if I found the longest Yeah, I think this right here was the largest move at the point. You project it from down here. Once price, we hit it in price right here, and maybe and time. Yeah, right here was that signal. And so as prices came back down, you had even more confidence that that was going to be the low. You have this trend line coming down here for support. There's probably other 50% levels if you threw that on there, but you were starting to see higher lows already. And then this qualifier overbalance and time and price happened right here because the bulls were able to push prices up for longer right there. And then it was just off to the races from there. So looking for something similar here. That's what I would like to see. Um, and who knows how we get there. I mean, if we're seeing higher lows on the way there, all the better as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that's mostly what I have today. I did start a leverage long position on Hyperliquid. I can go into that token more in the future, but basically it was meeting resistance and I was buying around some support. Since then, we've had a lot of volatility. And this is very early days. Like I just mentioned, we don't have really any confirmation that we've actually seen the low. But I get a little antsy sometimes and want to make moves. So I have a decent position started right here with some buy orders down below to hopefully average my price down. My target for this is, yeah, about $50, which from the entry right there. Yeah, that's a 2.5. Yeah, it's about just over a 3x. So, and that's a pretty easy target. I mean, that's just breaking above the all-time highs. I have no doubt that this token in particular will go higher. Here to say that I have the most amazing entry on anything, that's just part of my plan and what I'm doing. I've been looking for an entry here. One of the reasons I had a little bit more confidence in buying too was that overbalance in time and price on this entire move. We hit that around here. We were seeing some resistance. So I think I started buying support probably somewhere in here. Um, Still early days, but that's just how I was playing it. And I use 2x leverage, so I'm not liquidated until prices go well beyond here. And what I may yet do is set a stop loss for this bar right here. This was a pretty wicked bar right here, and it's also on a weekly time frame. I think it's an outside bar. Yeah, it's an outside bar too, which usually outside bars need a little bit of time to settle down because people are expecting higher prices or lower prices. None of those really happened. Prices went above and below the previous week. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of stalling out right here for a little bit. But yeah, either way, with that overbalance in time and price, that's what gave me confidence to start a position there. Another project that I'm really interested in is Beam Protocol. Got to be very careful right now because we had this accumulation. Well, not accumulation. We had this trading range here. It broke below. Had a lot of sentiment wiped out, and we're coming up. This is a daily trend line. We're coming right up at this resistance on this daily trend line too. And so yeah, I have some buy orders down here at the 50% level, and to hopefully capture some of that move. What I'd like to see is a higher low forming here, and then if once we break that top, then we're technically in a weekly uptrend, which is a pretty strong signal. That along with the overbalance in time and price, I like to use those a lot, and don't really bother even getting into something until it's broken a downtrend. I mean, everybody wants to get in at the lowest price possible, but you just don't know where the lowest price possible is until you get higher confirmation. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. As time goes on, I'll keep you more updated. Again, I'll link the Telegram down below where I do a little bit more. As I see things, I usually post there. And then if anybody wants me to get an X account, if you prefer X or prefer any other platform, let me know. Otherwise, just join the Telegram group, drop your name, introduce yourself. Yeah, where are you in your investment journey? Yeah, and let's all learn and grow together. All right, take care, guys.